and gentlemen, welcome on into the best time of the year, the most exciting time of the year. We are back for the top 15 wide receiver show. Thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, NathanPaswell. Welcome on into Fantasy Daily, and I can't get more excited. It's September 1st, so it means it's the best time of the year. And we have got a lot to cover today, so I'm very excited to really get in here, show you everything that I got, because I'm doing a million things at once right now. I got so many things going on with TikTok, with YouTube, so many things that we have to unpack in the next 5 days here, especially since I lost a couple days on the weekend due to losing that show. So unfortunately, I had to condense down the top running backs and top wide receivers, the show that we had with John. So instead of top 10s, I'm giving you a top 15. Had the running back show yesterday. Go ahead and check that out if you have not seen that yet. But we are getting into top 15 wide receivers. Before we do, I am NathanPaswell. Follow me on TikTok at Fantasy Daily Football. Follow me on Instagram, Fantasy Daily _. Follow me on Twitter at NPaswell. All that good stuff in here. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get into the top 15 wide receivers, we got some notes today. We're going to talk about the 53-man deadline notes, and I also have a section here where I want to talk about running back dead zone. So kind of left that out of the show yesterday. I thought I was going to go a lot longer than I did. It actually didn't. I was able to go through pretty quickly, so it gave me a kind of landscape on the timestamps there. Because we want to keep you at the 30-minute mark or at least under it, give you that condensed version of these shows, not these long drawn-out things, much like my ramblings become. So we're going to talk about running back dead zones, a term that gets used a lot this year. Maybe you don't really know what that is, but before we do, let's talk about the 53-man deadline, which was yesterday, August 30th. I'm sorry, 2 days ago, August 30th. And we got, right now, not big news, a couple little things, but I do think that more is going to come out as soon as I stop filming this show and it uploads, because I am filming this the day before. So it is August 31st for me, it is September 1st for you. So I would imagine that on my next show, we're going to have a lot more to unpack. But here's what I got so far for you. Jalen Reagor has been traded to the Minnesota Vikings from the Philadelphia Eagles. So the former wide receiver is heading over there, and a lot of people are going to wonder, well, no, what about Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen? I don't see Jalen Reagor taking anything of that at all, especially for Adam Thielen, which a lot of people are probably going to say, hey, now that Jalen Reagor's there, what's going to happen? Adam Thielen is a beast in the slot and on the outside. Minnesota's not going to go away from that. They're going to keep running with him. If Reagor does get some targets, it'll probably be accessory targets. I really do not expect Jalen Reagor to be any part of a threat to anybody in Minnesota's passing game. Justin Jefferson's still solid as heck, and don't look sideways at Adam Thielen now that Jalen Reagor's there. He is still going to play a ton in the slot. He's still going to play a ton on the outside. He's still going to have a connection with Kirk Cousins. He's still going to have a lot of touchdowns. And, he feasted at the beginning of the season last season. We basically forgot about it. So Adam Thielen is still Adam Thielen. We're going to keep that running. Moving on to Kenyon Drake, he signed, and the Ravens say that they expect him to get to immediate work. So there is some solidification there that we made the right choice this offseason by not talking about J.K. Dobbins. So if you haven't heard that part of the show, beginning of the season, a lot of people, or pre-draft season, a lot of people will be like, Nathan, you only talk about people that you like. I never hear you talk about anybody you hate. I do that on purpose to make sure that the names that we talk about a lot kind of get drilled into your brain so they pop out to you when you're at the draft. I don't want to get tied up talking about these players and why I don't like them, and then it kind of, clouds your judgment at the draft. I like to talk about the players, get those names really stuck into your head, the ones that I'm really excited about, because there really is a lot of them. So it's hard to cover all of them, but I like to repeat those names instead of really talking about the, the names that I don't want to look at. And this is another one. So we really didn't talk about the Ravens much this offseason, besides when we reviewed the Ravens. We even said then, before the Kenyon Drake signing, when it was just J.K. Dobbins, we were looking at his ADP, and I said, I'm out on it. I really don't trust a Ravens running back at all. The Ravens running back is the quarterback, so I really don't trust it. I think that Lamar Jackson needs to run the ball in order for them to be an effective offense. I do think that they really kind of go back to that form of Lamar Jackson this year, so I'm excited for Lamar Jackson's rushing upside. I'm not excited for any of the Baltimore running backs upside, and unfortunately J.K. Dobbins lives in that dead zone right now where a lot of people are looking at him as the upside play in that running back dead zone, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I really do not see the appeal, and I'm out on Ravens running backs altogether, just because the quarterback for the Ravens is also the running back. And that's not a shot at Lamar Jackson. He could throw the ball. I just mean when it comes to fantasy football. You know what I mean? moving on to the next one. Marlon Mack has been released, and whether he goes to the practice squad or whatever, it is Damien Pierce season. So for some reason, as much as I love Damien Pierce in the offseason, they had to hurt my feelings by keep talking about him, getting the, the upside. Everybody's now talking about him. He's kind of a, known name now in the fantasy community and the draft circle and stuff like that. So unfortunately, his ADP is rising very high, but I am still high on Damien Pierce, especially where he's going. I'm very excited for Damien Pierce, especially where he's going as ADP. But it's Damien Pierce season, man. I'm very, very excited. Now, little teaser. We talked about in 2020, we said David Montgomery was going to be that kind of back that you're going to want to own. Then the next season we were like, all right, well then who's this year's David Montgomery? We said DeAndre Swift. So those were 2 hits 2 years in a row. We're going for the 3-peat, and I do believe that Damien Pierce is that guy, but we're not going to put the flag in there yet. I'll get back to you around week 2 how it looks at the beginning of the season, because that's usually when week 3 is when we do a lot. So week 3 is a big week. But anyway. Moving on, it is Damien Pierce season. Don't you forget it. Josh Gordon is visiting the Titans today, so some much needed wide receiver help. If he does go there, I think that could be a good fit for him. The Chargers have signed Sony Michel. It's still chaos over there. I mean, if I had to plant my flag on somebody, it'd still be Cam Akers. I'm sorry, I'm thinking backwards here. Chargers are signing Sony Michel. It means nothing. You still run with Austin Eckler. Sony Michel is way back there, so you don't look at it at all. You don't look at Sony Michel at all. You don't look down at Austin Eckler at all. Just keep running with Austin Eckler. Keep Sony Michel on the waiver wire. So some waiver news, not much there. Travis Fulgham got picked up by the Green Bay Packers today, and I'd like to also couple that with the fact that Matt LaFleur said that they will use a wide receiver by committee. So, take that, Aaron Rodgers. Take that. Now look who's stupid. You got all that money, and now you're going to look like a fool because you have to go wide receiver by committee. Who even says wide receiver by committee? That's just a wide receiver room. You're running back by committee is because it's usually one guy. Wide receiver one guys is only if you have something like Justin Jefferson or Devontae Adams. Wide receiver by committee, you spoiled little thing. I can't wait to watch you get exposed. Oh, God, how do you take that much money, let Devontae Adams go, and then say something like that? Oh my God, Matt LaFleur, you did it to yourself. And Aaron Rodgers, you did it to him. Terrible. I would have played without a helmet to keep Devontae Adams. All right, so let's move on before I keep getting fired up. My man. Anyway, moving on to the running back dead zone, and let's talk about this real quick because I'm actually rambling like I do so often. Let's talk about the running back dead zone because it is a term that is used a lot this year. So if you do not know what that term means, it is where high-end running backs usually kind of fall off, and there's really nothing else but to look at. It really becomes a wasteland. But instead of just talking about the running back dead zone, let's kind of hone in. Where is the running back's dead zone? So I tried to deep dive into this, and the running back dead zone really begins at pick 31, which is mid-third round, halfway through the third round. The last pick there is James Conner at 31 before it drops to Cam Akers at 37, Montgomery at 39, Etienne at 40, Breece Hall at 44, etc. But this is what really begins that wasteland, that gap of running backs where you really don't want to grab anything that's over there because it really doesn't look great, and it really doesn't look like it's going to help your team any more than the other players that are around him, which you probably prefer to have the other players around him. So if you are somebody who cares highly for having 2 dominant running backs in your league, you're going to need to draft 2 running backs early, maybe even first and second picks. But you can definitely do that this year, especially if you have like the first 3 draft picks. You might be hoping that somebody falls to you in the second round. But if you have a late end and you want to go 2 running backs, I strongly recommend that you do because we are flushed with wide receivers this year. And that running back dead zone actually creates a really, really good opportunity for you to draft some really good wide receivers that seem like they're kind of low end. So we have must-have players that we're going to talk about. I'll post that on TikTok as well. But those players that are the must-have players are right in that zone. So this is really a special year where you can draft like the perfect roster if it really falls to you. We're going to talk about that as well on the Gold Team Show on YouTube. But we are really looking at what could be a special year of drafting 2 running backs early, and then within that running back dead zone, which really doesn't pick up again until pick 66, which is A.J. Dillon. It's 3 rounds later, which is the mid-6th. So if you're talking about drafting 2 running backs in your first 2, and then you're in the 3rd round, you can go, we'll say wide receiver, tight end in the 5th, and then you go back to 6. You can get your 3rd running back you still have 7, 8, 9. So you have Adam Thielen at the round 7, Darnell Mooney in round 7, Hunter Renfrow in round 8. So there really are so many players that you can grab in that area that will really bolster your team. So the chance to make like an almost perfect dominant roster, injury barring, it really is there this year. And some teams are going to have a team that's just so structurally sound, they really can't lose unless 3 players at the same time crap the bed, which very rarely happens. 1 week, and you can buy those 1 weeks if your team is the consistency master. So running back dead zone, if you haven't heard of that before, that's what it does. That's what it is. But this running back dead zone this year actually presents a really good opportunity, because usually the running back dead zone is only like 10 to 15 picks. And usually you can just grab a wide receiver, running back, and wait. This is a long gap. So if you structure your roster properly, you can get a really dominant roster. We'll talk about that on the Gold Teams on YouTube, because that'll be a fun show. But let us get right into, I always say right into after rambling for 5 minutes. Let us get into the top 15 wide receivers that I have. Now, the disclaimer before we start this is not a draft ranking. This is not where you should draft your wide receivers. This is how I feel about their potential to return to this spot or be at that spot when the season ends, when the season concludes, and also a little bit mixed in of what their ADP is. So it's a little sugar, a little spice, little how do I feel about this player watching him last year. So kind of a culmination, but it is not a draft ranking. So if you hear my number 1, it's not saying you take my number 1 over my number 2 or number 3. That's saying I really feel like this guy can become the number 1 this year, or I really feel like this guy can jump into the top 5 this year. So you can look at him with that upside. But do not draft these players based on how I'm saying it. You'll see on the ADP, and then you'll be able to kind of use that to correlate the value that you can get with those players. So let us get right into it, and we are going to kick this off with a bang. The number 1 thing that I have been getting dragged for on TikTok, and I can't wait. I'm so excited because this happened last year. Like we said, Jonathan Taylor, they dragged me. DeAndre Swift, they dragged me. I love the duality between the fact that fantasy football is a completely opinion-based, but you can kind of use stats to it a little bit. It really gets people fired up, and I enjoy the banter, the people telling me I'm crazy for saying what I say. I enjoy it. So, it's exciting. This is the best time of the year, so as much as I see these comments and I go, oh, you're going to be wrong about that, and I seem to be throwing a little shade, I do love it. I love the fact that we can go back and forth, because we only get to do this for 17 weeks. So all you TikTok bros who like dragging me, I love you. Goddamn door in the background is just not having it. So, like I said, not a draft ranking. Let's kick this off. We got 15 minutes left. I got a minute per pick to go. So here we go. My number 1 wide receiver for the year, who I've been getting dragged for on any social media, anybody who hears me say that he's my number 1 overall, there's no chance that he can be this guy. All right. No chance is a big stretch. It is CeeDee Lamb, Dallas Cowboys wide receiver. And I am over the moon about CeeDee Lamb. The unfortunate part is I didn't get CeeDee Lamb in any of my drafts. So I'm going to make a fake league, just me in it, so I can have CeeDee Lamb somewhere, because I'm sad that I do not have CeeDee Lamb anywhere. Because of his ADP and the way that I drafted, I'm usually a late end pick guy. I wish I picked a higher pick this year, because like I said on the running back draft dead zone thing, I prefer that 1 through 3, 1 through 4 pick this year compared to last season's. And unfortunately, I ran with what I usually suggest and say, okay, I want to pick later rounds. And because of where I was, I never got any CeeDee Lamb share. So I'm a little upset about that. I'm going to be trying to trade for him. So if you're in one of my leagues and you have CeeDee Lamb, I will pay a high price. But CeeDee Lamb, the reason I am so excited for him is because this team is really void of talent right now. Amari Cooper has left town. Cedric Wilson has left town. James Washington has hit the PUP, so he's guaranteed to miss, the IR. So he's guaranteed to miss the first 4 weeks. Michael Gallup has avoided IR, but I do expect him to miss 2 weeks. I do believe that CeeDee Lamb can start off with a bang. I do not remember who they play the first 2 weeks. But I'm really looking at this team as the way that they play and the way that they need to play in order to win games. They have a good defense, but in order to win games, they really have to have a dominant passing attack so Zeke can get to work. And I do believe that CeeDee Lamb could lead the league in targets this year, as well as touchdowns. So I'm very, very excited for CeeDee Lamb. I have him on my bold prediction show that we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth. But I do believe that CeeDee Lamb has the best potential to become one of those names that absolutely pops. I'm going to throw him on the breakout show because a lot of people have been talking about CeeDee Lamb as a breakout. I thought he already kind of was, just we all understood that he was a top 10. But I guess I'll throw him in there, so we'll talk about him a little bit more in depth. But he opens up the season against Tampa Bay and Cincinnati, 2 games that will need to be high scoring. I got CeeDee Lamb for like 3 touchdowns between those 2 games, so I'm really excited for CeeDee Lamb. I think he starts off with a bang, and if you need to trade for him, or if you'd like to trade for him like I would like to do, I think you need to do it before the season because he's going to start off really hot. So I'm excited for CeeDee Lamb. I do believe that he could become the number 1 wide receiver this year, and he could easily lead the league in touchdowns. So this team, you know, one of the best scoring offenses last year, the number 1 scoring offense last year, and I expect them to keep that going. Whether or not Buffalo edges them out, I think they're still going to be really high up there. So say what you want about the offensive line, I do believe that this team can get it done. As far as fantasy goes. So moving on to number 2, who you can arguably say is the number 1. And I actually did, like I said, this is not a draft ranking. Cooper Kupp fell to me in one of my leagues. I drafted Cooper Kupp over CeeDee Lamb. But Cooper Kupp is my number 2, and it really doesn't have to be explained. It's because Cooper Kupp is on another level when it comes to targets and receptions. The reason I have CeeDee Lamb above him is because now you have Cooper Kupp coming over, Allen Robinson coming over to hang out with Cooper Kupp. Allen Robinson is not just a side addition. He is not just adding like a Robert Woods to your team and seeing what happens, or having a Robert Woods on your team and seeing what happens. Allen Robinson is a bona fide wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. He will compete with targets. He will take a little bit of work, whereas CeeDee Lamb, I believe, is on an island, and they are so void of talent. They had to move Tony Pollard into the slot. So if you're that void of talent, then I do believe that you're going to have to lean heavily on CeeDee Lamb. So I do think that's going to be a big factor in CeeDee Lamb becoming that guy over somebody like Cooper Kupp, who I think can lose some targets. But Cooper Kupp is still a machine. He's still going to get insane amount of targets. I think he averaged like 11 targets last year, 10 targets a game, which is just superhuman. So keep drafting him as the number 1 overall. My number 3 pick, who is also somebody else who is going as the number 1 overall to a lot of players, and that is Justin Jefferson. Now, I do love Justin Jefferson, but I think we do need to still account for the fact that Adam Thielen is a stud. I believe Adam Thielen was like the number 1 wide receiver to start off the year. Like, he absolutely exploded at the beginning of the season. Then he got injured and everybody kind of forgot about him. So it seems like the stigma of forgetting about Adam Thielen is still there. As much as I love Justin Jefferson, I can't put him in the number 1 category. I think 3 is very fitting for him. If he jumps up to number 1, I won't be surprised. But I think as far as, you know, the rankings and where he finishes on the season and the value that you can get for him, or what you're paying for him, he ends up at number 3 for me. So I do love Justin Jefferson. Keep dragging him that high. Drafting him that high. This guy originally was my number 1 pick for the season, in the off season when we really started getting things going. We really started, you know, booting the computers back up. He was my number 1 in the off season. I was just thinking like he's going to go crazy next year. He's going to go crazy. But my number 4 is Stefon Diggs, and if you want to take Stefon Diggs as your number 1 wide receiver, I love it. If you're somebody who's at the back end of the draft and Stefon Diggs falls to you and you can grab him and a running back, I think that you are more than okay with taking the hit at running back a little bit. But Stefon Diggs, I believe, is going to be an absolute machine. Everybody's talking about Gabriel Davis and Isaiah McKenzie stealing work for him. I believe this is one of those situations where having them and having somebody else on the field that defenses need to look at will help Stefon Diggs because you have Josh Allen. So it's not like just a regular team where, you know, if it's Kirk Cousins, you get a big name wide receiver. If it, you know, even Matt Stafford, you get a big name wide receiver like Allen Robinson. It's going to take a little bit of work from Cooper Kupp, but I still think it's sustainable. But I think Stefon Diggs is one of those people that he has Josh Allen. He's going to be able to get, you know, increased targets, and when the, you know, other players out there have more time to work, the targets are just going to go up. His Josh Allen's passing. Oh my God. I have breaking news right in front of me. Do I have a banner? Breaking news? Let's put that up. Trey Sermon has been waived by the 49ers. So, breaking news right now as I see it. You guys will hear it in the morning. It's 5 o'clock my time on Wednesday, August 31st. You guys will be watching this Thursday morning, September 1st. So, 49ers have waived Trey Sermon. So, Elijah Mitchell, wow, that's going to be a high draft capital. He's in the running back dead zone. So, if you're drafting tonight for some weird reason, then Elijah Mitchell, man, right in that running back dead zone. That's great. But moving on, I don't want to keep this too long. So moving on, like I said, I think that Josh Allen, when you have people who can catch the ball more, his passing attempts are just going to go up. So it's not going to be one of those situations where he's going to have to share. If that team doesn't run the ball, I think they forgot what running back is. They drafted James Cook, but I think they drafted him kind of just like, oh, that's Dalvin Cook's brother. Get over here. And then he was like, I run the ball. And they were like, oh, we don't do that here. So moving on to my fifth, my man Davante Adams. You still got to keep him high up. I love Davante Adams. I do believe that he loses a little bit of upside because Aaron Rodgers peppered him with targets. Derek Carr, I believe, is going to be a super stud this year. I think he's going to go off, and Davante Adams is going to have double-digit touchdowns again, which is going to keep him in the top 10. And I do love Davante Adams oh so much. I think he's going to lose a little bit of work to Hunter Renfrow. I don't think Hunter Renfrow disappears. He's another person I think he believes in he's in the 8th round. I think he's 81. And I love his upside too, but I do believe that Davante Adams will still get his. He just demands targets. He's just too dang good. At number 6, who I have a lot lower than most people, and that is Jamar Chase. Now, what I want to know, people, my fellow fantasy players, is how you can rank. I'll do a little spoiler right here. T. Higgins is in some people's top 20, right? You're that confident in Joe Burrow, right, that he's going to have Jamar Chase in the top 5 and he's going to have T. Higgins within the top 20. But Gabriel Davis and Isaiah McKenzie, who are on better offenses, have no chance of doing it. CeeDee Lamb, who's on a great offense, has no chance of being the number 1. Explain yourself to me. It's hype. Jamar Chase, I do love you, but go back and look at his game logs. He has games where he completely disappeared. I know that because I am somebody who drafted Jamar Chase in Dynasty and then traded him away. I don't think I got what I wanted back in return. I think I lost that trade miserably. But I did do that. I do believe that it's because Jamar Chase will have these games where he disappears. He will have these massive upside games. But like I said, when you have a player like Jamar Chase and he's scoring 41 week and then you're beating that opponent that week by 25, 26, 27, it doesn't matter. You're just padding whatever's going to happen. You're not realizing that the other weeks that you lost because Jamar Chase put up 3 points for you. Not good, man. So T. Higgins is going to be involved. He's going to be heavily involved. You can keep him kind of where he is. I would move him down quite a bit, actually. He might be on my out of control ADP segment on TikTok. I haven't checked his ADP, but last I checked it was like 3rd, 4th round, and I was like, no, you don't go here. So Jamar Chase, I do think that he's great. You keep him at number 6. He's going to have these massive explosion games. He's the new Tyreek Hill with Joe Burrow, but, well, irrelevant, you know what I mean. He's the new Tyreek Hill appeal. He's the new guy that we look at like Tyreek Hill. Moving on to number 7, who I actually feel bad that he's this low because I think he has Mr. Consistency. He is one of the better wide receivers in the league that we don't talk about. He kind of goes under the radar. He is Mr. Mike Evans. Mr. Tom Brady's number 1. He is going to be a beast. John Landry actually sent me over 2 stats side by side of Mike Evans and Davante Adams, and Mike Evans' stats are arguably better. So cool stat that John brought up to me there. Mike Evans, that guy who kind of just, remains under the radar, and we don't really look at him as a top 5 guy, but he has the appeal to be there, and he has the appeal to lead the league in touchdowns every single year. He has the appeal to do 3 touchdowns all the time, and I do love Mike Evans and Tom Brady connection, so keep on rolling with that. Moving on to number 8, we got Keenan Allen. Now this one took us quite a few hits for me as far as, where I really feel like I should rank him. I kind of felt like I should put him lower because of the team structure and who he has at number 2 with Mike Williams. But I do believe that Keenan Allen is still somebody that is going to ridiculously haul in receptions and get his share in touchdowns. So when he finishes the year with 6 to 8 touchdowns, the amount of receptions that he got and yards after the catch total that he gets, it'll be worth it. Because Keenan Allen really is just a different type of possession receiver when it comes to making sure that he can get where he needs to be for Justin Herbert. So as much as I love Mike Williams, I think that Keenan Allen will still be the dominant guy there, and he will still be over the moon number 1 at wide receiver, and I really do at Chargers wide receiver, and I do believe that those reception totals are going to keep on coming. Moving on to number 9, my most favorite wide receiver to really talk about this year besides CeeDee Lamb, and that is Michael Pittman at number 9. Very excited to see you here, Michael Pittman. I do believe that this is where you live for the next few years until further notice. Basically, I do believe that Michael Pittman is the next big name at wide receiver that we're going to be talking about in the future, and his ADP couldn't be sweeter. I believe he's in the 5th round right now, maybe even 4th round, but he's worth every single penny of that. I do believe that Michael Pittman is going to break out this year and absolutely not break out, but break into, I guess we can call it last year's breakout year, but he's going to break into that top echelon and he's going to remain there this year. So I think Michael Pittman with Matt Ryan goes absolutely superhuman. At number 10, so this is where the list gets a little bit interesting because you might not expect this. Here I have Mr. Courtland Sutton, and if you guys don't remember Tyler Lockett's top 9 year, I believe it was top 10, maybe it was 11, I don't remember. But Tyler Lockett, when he was with Russell Wilson, he was really getting peppered with targets. I do believe that's the avenue we are traveling down with Courtland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy falling down the rankings, so Courtland Sutton kind of rising up. I was hoping it would be the other way, because when we first started the season, I had to talk a lot about how Jerry Jeudy was way higher up than Courtland Sutton in rankings, and I was, pulling the flare saying, no, it's going to be Courtland Sutton, man. He's built for Russell Wilson a lot better. Now it's kind of switched. Courtland Sutton's way up there, but I do still have him at wide receiver 10. I still love his ADP. I believe he's another one in the 5th or 6th round. Love Courtland Sutton's ADP. I love the ability that he has to get peppered with targets as well as, red zone targets, be a trustworthy guy for Russell Wilson and kind of be the guy for Russell Wilson. I think that's very likely. Moving on to number 11. Now, this guy got pushed down a lot for me, and because I do believe that this team is going to move away from him rushing the ball, and that's Deebo Samuel. So, Matt Harmon from Reception Perception. I follow him on Twitter. I love him. Check him out. He has an article that he wrote about Deebo Samuel needing to have the rushing upside, and the analysis that he puts in there, it kind of solidified what I felt like during the offseason, where I was just like, I don't feel like Deebo Samuel can do that again. I love Deebo Samuel. I just don't see it happening again. So reading Matt Harmon's article, which he's amazing, you guys should check him out. But reading his article, I was like, yeah, this is kind of really the culmination of, what I was feeling, except so much smarter than I ever could imagine to put into words. So Deebo Samuel, he's going to need that rushing upside, and I do agree that he's probably going to fall away from the top, 7 or 8 as far as, the consensus ADP is right now. Maybe if you draft on Sunday, he might be there still. But I do believe that you got to take him out of your top 10. I would much rather have Courtland Sutton or Michael Pittman than Deebo Samuel. Moving on to number 12, a guy that I advocated for a lot last year. He even made it into my TikTok bio where I said, this guy for wide receiver 1. It is Mr. Mike Williams, the wide receiver 2 for the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert. And I do believe that Mike Williams can still be that guy. This is probably a cliff that I really need to get off of, and this might bite me in the face. But after looking at it, this team's gotten a lot better. This team looks a lot better. This team's a lot more confident. Justin Herbert's a lot more confident. Mike Williams has been around for a while, but I do believe that Mike Williams is going to have some good consistency this year. They're going to find a way for him to not drop off, and I do believe he's going to rival some of the names that we're talking about soon, and he's going to have that wide receiver 1 appeal in fantasy while being a wide receiver 2 on a team. So most of the time when we look at a team, we say, okay, I want the wide receiver 1, so you kind of ignore the wide receiver 2, you let him fall. But Mike Williams is falling in a lot of drafts, and he's one of those players that I really do love playing as, or playing with and having on my team to throw in there if I need something, because he can do big things on big weeks. He's got a good offense. He's got Justin Herbert. They like him there. So love Mike Williams over there. Moving on to number 13, I got DJ Moore, and he jumped up into my rankings the moment Baker Mayfield arrived, because I do believe that DJ Moore, I like Terrence Marshall, I won't lie, I really kind of want to see Terrence Marshall become a thing. So if Terrence Marshall happens to become a thing, I said his name first. But DJ Moore, I think he's one of the guys that just becomes a safety blanket for Baker Mayfield, and DJ Moore is still just uber talented, and we don't give him enough credit for it. We probably don't watch him enough because of the fact that the Carolina Panthers. But this team's going to have to be able, or is going to be able to throw the ball a little bit better now that they have Baker Mayfield there. Hopefully Christian McCaffrey stays healthy so they can really kind of, scare the defense off, because if he does, I think DJ Moore's upside with Christian McCaffrey there is absolutely immense. So I love DJ Moore this year. I think with or without Christian McCaffrey's injury risk, DJ Moore is still going to feast with Baker Mayfield. So I love it. Moving on to number 14, somebody that dropped a lot in my rankings throughout the offseason, and somebody that I really, as soon as he moved and he got moved in the trade, he still moved, he even fell further. So I didn't say that as best I could. So A.J. Brown. It's A.J. Brown. When A.J. Brown was still on the Titans, I was kind of moving him down in my offseason rankings, and then he's traded to Philadelphia, and now I'm looking at it like, oh man, that's just, I mean, it's good, but I don't know if I trust that upside for Jalen Hurts to give him a 1,000-yard season without A.J. Brown having to do the majority of the work. So I do believe that he's going to have the receptions, he's going to have the touchdowns, but as far as everything else goes, I am a little bit skeptical, so that's why he fell for me. And to be honest, I probably would have put who I have 15 above him. I probably would draft who I have at 15 above him. I think the name of who it is and the fact that he is the bona fide wide receiver 1 for Jalen Hurts, who I think has a really easy schedule and has a chance to get it going, kind of put him there. But 15 and 14 are really a toss-up for me. And to be honest, now that I'm staring at it, I kind of want to put number 15, Brandon Cooks, at number 14 above A.J. Brown, because I do believe that Brandon Cooks every single day gets a little bit more exciting to look at and a little bit more enticing to draft, even if you have to reach up for him, because I believe that Brandon Cooks is going to be a target machine, and he's going to be basically the only guy on that team besides Damien Pierce. So I think it is going to be the Brandon Cooks and Damien Pierce show over there. They're going to have Davis Mills, who is competent. He's going to have times where he, screws up or whatever, but I believe that Brandon Cooks is going to have games where he gets 10, 12 targets and a touchdown, maybe even has a couple 2-touchdown games. So I love Brandon Cooks. That is my top 15 wide receivers. And we got that running back dead zone on there. We got the breaking news for Trey Sermon being 49ers waiving Trey Sermon, so that's very interesting. But that's our show for tonight, or for today. You guys take care. We got a lot of good stuff going. I got the breakouts and busts coming soon, and then the 2 gold teams. So last year we did the gold team where I had Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1. I think I had DeAndre Swift as a running back, and I think that I had Jonathan Taylor as my running back. So really good gold team last year. We got another gold team coming this year, and I actually have 2-part this year for you. We have the top players, and I'm going to try to make a best draft for you. So a gold team draft where I go round by round by round, and I use current ADP. I think I'm going to try to release that on Sunday morning for you guys, or maybe I'll do Saturday morning. That way you have it for the weekend. But try to have that best draft team by round to really say, hey, this is what that perfect team looks like if you can really take advantage of that running back dead zone. But as always, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I've been really going hard to work here, running myself rampant to make sure that we can have an awesome season again, because the Fantasy Daily crew is out there winning. They're not getting hung up on other stuff like all these dang tic-tackers, man. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Take care.